This is Charlie. Half of his breakfast always ends up on the floor. And he leaves fur everywhere. That's why I grabbed the Bissell Power Clean Fur Finder. It's cordless, powerful, and actually finds fur you don't even see. Learn more at Bissell.com.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. So Netflix is basically Santa this year. 2 NFL games on Christmas Day, streaming live. At 1 p.m. Eastern, it's Cowboys, Commanders. Then at 4:30, you've got Lions, Vikings. Midwest football, playoff stakes, and probably some snow. Watching holiday football is a tradition the whole family can enjoy. Open some gifts, grab some food, settle in, and watch NFL Live on Netflix this Christmas Day.
Hi, I'm Daniel Lickis, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that are around for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest, a writer, a paraglider pilot, a rare cancer survivor, and debut author and the author of the book Unflappable, Soaring Beyond a Diagnosis, none other than Mr. Jonathan Hutton.
Hey, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Mr. Jonathan. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, I'm Jonathan. I live in Olympia, Washington. I write. I work in the public sector, healthcare, IT, supporting affordable healthcare for people in the state of Washington. And this is my first book. Super excited to talk with you about it.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Jonathan. Looking forward for more and more empowering books. Yes, lots of audience saluting you for giving inspiration to the world. So tell us, the title Inflammable is so powerful. How do you define the quality and what was in perfect word to capture the essence of your journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, too. So, unflappability is another word for resilience, right? So if someone is unflappable, that means that they're steady, they're calm in the face of difficult circumstances. So it means that, but it's also a nod to flying, so birds flap, or wings have flaps on them, you could say. And then also there's a third dimension to it, which is the type of surgery, type of reconstructive surgery I've had a few of. That is a pretty important part of the story, is called flap surgery. So it's kind of cheeky. I think one of the points I'm also making in the book is that you become more resilient by learning how to be vulnerable. So yeah, it's kind of cheeky, but really I am exploring how you become more resilient and what that journey is like for someone who's been through really, really challenging things in their life. How you come out of the other side of that, feeling stronger and more confident and grateful to be alive. Yeah.
Soaring Beyond a Diagnosis suggests a journey from being grounded to taking flight. What did being grounded by your diagnosis feel like, and what does soaring feel like you now?
Yeah. There's not a singular answer for that, because the diagnosis wasn't a singular thing. it's been an ongoing cyclical thing over the course of 10 plus years now. What it felt like, I mean, I knew that I wanted to learn how to fly paragliders before any of the cancer stuff started. And there was always something in the way of making that happen, whether it was treatments and recovery or career stuff. That's a lot of what the story is about, is this dream, and then all of the life that kept interrupting trying to make that happen until finally it does. I got my first taste of what that freedom of soaring in the air is like when I tried skydiving and started to learn that. And as I describe in the book, there's really a sort of freedom when you're in the air. You have a perspective that's very different than it is when you're on the ground. That changes you, that changes something. And I've heard a similar sort of sentiment from people who fly paragliders. So I've learned so much about myself from the act of flying, from the people who I've gotten to know in the community. But yeah, I think that readers will walk away being really curious about paragliding and flying as a result of reading some of the stories. Yeah.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Jonathan. And on the personal journey and mindset, the book undoubtedly covers the moment of diagnosis. Beyond the medical facts, what are the immediate story your mind started telling you about your future, and how did you begin to rewrite that narrative?
Well, when I first learned that I had rare sinonasal cancer, I don't know, I had, I guess you could call it a moment of clarity where I thought, well, that's not what I expected. This might be the end. Okay. I've lived a good life. I feel content. So I don't know. I've tried to stay with that narrative, the aspect of being grateful for the time that I have. At the same time, you know, when you go through cancer and cancer treatment, and you become a cancer survivor, that becomes a part of your identity. I've been very aware of this and mindful to not build my whole life around the diagnosis. It's a part of my life, but arguably maybe not the most interesting. So that's been a part of it too, right? Like gratitude for the time that I have, knowing that, and coming really face to face with the prospect that our lives are short, fragile. We should make the best use of the time that we have. And then also not letting cancer be the kind of central preoccupation, right? And this is something that I talk about in the book as well. And I wrote an essay kind of about this. But it's something that, yeah, is top of mind for me quite a lot.
So, Mr. Jonathan, what was the most surprising thing you learned about yourself while navigating the challenges you write the book?
Yeah, I knew early on that I was going to need help in writing it. I knew that as a first-time author, I was not a pro. How could I be if I'd never done it before? I learned a lot about the craft of putting together a story that is engaging to read, that's fun, that kind of pulls the reader in. A lot of those things I learned from my editor, from other authors, reading their books, finding pieces that really spoke to me, understanding more about how to tell a good story. And then beyond just the mechanics, part of the reason, part of the motivation for writing the book was I wanted to understand how I had changed over the course of 10 years, and particularly over the course of the past, say, 4 or 5, where, as I tell in the book, I underwent some pretty drastic physical and functional changes from several reconstructive surgeries that I had. And I wanted to understand that journey a little bit better. I knew that I had changed, and not just physically, but I wanted to understand that better. And so in writing the story, I had more clarity. I was able to articulate how I had changed. And I learned some things too. I learned some things about the story, my story, that hadn't been abundantly clear before. Little details, little interesting memories that I hadn't really spent time with until I started writing the book. So, yeah, learned a lot about book writing in general, storytelling in a longer form, and then ways that I had changed, and parts of my story that hadn't been top of mind until I really sat with my story as a whole. Yeah.
Many people in similar situation talk about grieving process, Mr. Jonathan, for the life they thought they have. How did you move through the grief to find a new and perhaps even more meaningful purpose?
Yeah. So the post-surgical stuff that I write about, maybe more than the early treatments that, took some time to recover from, but I bounced right back. After I underwent head and neck reconstruction surgery, I had periods of reckoning where I was beginning to understand and grieve for a face and a set of functions that I didn't have anymore. I had to learn how to speak again, how to swallow again, and some of those things would never be the same. That was rough. One of the things that was helpful, and I write about this a little bit, was the practice of meditation, working to show kind of self-compassion, and then really thinking about this idea that our conception of self, who we are physically, isn't a static thing, is something that is flexible and changes over the course of your life, and really is changing all the time. And so trying to detach yourself from this notion that, how I view myself is this fixed, solid thing, letting go of that idea was just very, very helpful in that journey, and knowing that I'm different, and that's okay. Yeah.
Mhm. On the book's content and structure, Mr. Jonathan, if you had to pinpoint one character or one story in the book that is the absolute heart of Unflappable, which would it be and why?
One story or one character? That's tough. There's a couple of characters who are really important in the story. One of them is my wife, Lindsay, who, I mentioned writing a book isn't something you can really do alone. I'd say the exact same for going through some of the really rough things that my body has gone through with cancer and surgery and treatment, and just the time that's involved in that, how disruptive it is to your life. But my wife, since almost the very beginning, has been so patient and present and thoughtful and caring. I can't imagine going through some of these things without her. There were moments in the story that I talk about where I had to do some of these things alone during COVID. That was awful and really, really hard. So she's one character connected to a lot of these stories. Another central figure would be my surgeon, Dr. Barber. She's in the story towards the kind of latter half of the book. I learned so much and continue to be fascinated by the sort of work that head and neck surgeons do. It's something not a lot of people know about, because not a lot of people need head and neck surgery, thankfully. But it really is extraordinary, the sorts of things that they can repair, whether for cancer or trauma or what have you. And not only that, but people like Dr. Barber and other surgeons I've met with some of the volunteer work I do. Wow, just the degree of compassion and humanity they have in the way that they relate to their patients. It really is inspiring to me. So yeah, those are two important characters. Another person that comes to mind is a friend of mine who I meet early on in the paragliding stories, named Hakan. Someone that we've just had great fun adventures together, and I write about meeting him kind of at the beginning of my paragliding journey. So three different people connected to a bunch of different stories, all kind of different but similar. And yeah, I look forward to people getting to know those characters through the book as I've known them in my life.
Mr. Jonathan, as a debut author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, I wrote this book primarily to prove that I can write a book. I want it to find readers, but the long-term goal really is to write more books. This is a springboard to do more of this sort of work. I mentioned I have ideas for 2 more. I want to dedicate more of my time and attention and effort to writing. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, but that is kind of the longer term goal. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue to promote this book, share it with people, and then at some point, hopefully really dedicate even more time to the next book. Yeah.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Jonathan, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author like you?
Yeah, I think, well, there's a couple pieces of advice that will probably sound familiar. Obviously, you need to build a practice of writing. You need to, if you're going to get good at something, you need to do it routinely and practice. So find a way to do that. I found having a small audience on Substack to be helpful in that I am writing for myself, but also for others. So that can help you become a better storyteller and do something beyond just journaling. Journaling's important. That's a place to start, but writing for an audience, also useful. Having a kind of theme that you're writing around. And then the other part would be you have to have an editor. I can't imagine publishing, printing the early versions of this book, the unedited ones, the ones that did not have the input and teachings from my editor. That's a process in and of itself and a skill you develop, kind of like writing. But you really need, if you're going to do this on your own, self-publishing, that to me, especially in nonfiction, non-negotiable. So yeah, be thinking about that, ask around, talk to people who've written books, ask them for what advice they have on how to seek those people out. That's how I found my editor. And it just really changed things for me in really important ways. And then I don't know, the other part would be ready to be open to learning about yourself over the course of, if you decide to write a book, be open to learning and criticism, and try to approach the storytelling with a degree of humility and awareness for the people that are going to be reading it. That was also really helpful for me, to approach it like a student, to know that I needed to be open to learning and changing, and also to, not be so attached to the words that I had written in the way that I'd written them, that if cutting out a big section meant that the story was better, I should be open to doing that. So it can be, that part can be challenging, especially when so much of yourself is in the story, but yeah, being receptive to change, to learning, to criticism. Wow, you're gonna get there a lot faster if those things are true. So yeah, that's my advice.
Thank you for that advice, Mr. Jonathan. Thank you. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season. Abstract Poetry in 2nd season, and my book 101 review in 5th season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my Food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101 Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Jonathan, having a sword beyond your diagnosis, what is the next peak you're aiming for? What does the next chapter of being unflammable look like for you?
Well, I think it's traveling more, writing more, helping my wife with her business. Yeah, and I hope to meet more people who've read the book, hear what they found useful, where the story resonated with them. I've had people send me inputs and passages that really spoke to them, and that's just meant the world to me. So more of that, and then on to the next book.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Jonathan. Keep up the good work, and can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so you'll find the book on Amazon. You can also buy it from me directly at www.unflappable.press. Follow me on Substack, unflappable.blog, and yeah, we'd love to hear from anyone who's picked up the book and read it.
Yes, people, support Mr. Jonathan Hutton, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been fun.
More to come, people. See you soon.